Welcome to the Divorce and Separation Guide for Christians Master Course. My name is Bongani. Today we are looking at Module 1, which has to deal with recognizing early signs and addressing conflict. Now, the objective for this module is to identify warning signs of marital breakdown and learn biblical ways to manage conflict. Now, in part 1, we'll be looking at early signs of an imminent divorce. Now, here's a quick question for you. Can you think of at least one sign that might signal an imminent divorce before it occurs? Now, this could be something you've gone through in the past, or it could be something you are recognizing right now in your current relationship or even in other people's relationships. Please do share with us in the comment sections. So first off, we'll be looking at communication breakdown, the 10 causes of communication breakdown and 10 signs that your communication is breaking down. So the first cause could be unresolved past conflicts. Anything that is left in the past unresolved will come and haunt you in the future. Never leave conflicts unresolved. Make sure you reach a mutual understanding when it comes to conflicts. One has to, at some point, compromise for the sake of peace, for the sake of working together, but never leave conflicts unresolved. Number 2, stress and external pressures can cause communication breakdown. This could be work-related stress. This could be financial stress. So any stress, any external pressure, this could be friends or family getting involved in your relationships. So any of these two can also lead to a communication breakdown. Number 3, lack of active listening can lead to communication breakdown also. Now, the first rule of active listening is that you need to listen to understand, not to respond. And you need to ask clarifying questions so that you then understand what the other person is trying to communicate with you. Number 4, assumptions and mind reading could cause communication breakdown. Never assume. Always ask clarifying questions. You always want to understand that you know what your partner actually means. Don't assume that you do know. Don't assume that you know what they are thinking. You are not a mind reader. So let's refrain from thinking we know people. Always ask clarifying questions. Something as simple as a question like, am I correct in saying that this is what you mean? You see, you give a person to then respond and to clarify their statement. So never assume that you understand. And never think that you can read a person's mind. Number 5, we look at pride and defensiveness, which can obviously cause communication breakdown. Now, the interesting thing is that God himself hates pride. He says he will humble the proud throughout scripture. So never ever lead with pride in a relationship. The reality is, even though you don't want to seem vulnerable, but you need the person you are in a relationship with. And do not get defensive. Always understand that the other person is not necessarily trying to attack you, but they are just simply sharing what it is in their heart. So when you act defensive, the communication will break down and the other person will not be able to communicate what it is that they actually wanted to communicate with you. So that means you never get the point of the conversation. So never get defensive. Never allow your pride to lead you. Always understand that we need each other. The person needs you, you need them. Number 6, fear of conflict or rejection can cause a communication breakdown. Now, you don't want to assume that every conversation with your partner will lead to a conflict or it will lead to them rejecting you. Because if you do that, that might actually cause a communication breakdown where you yourself do not feel confident in articulating your feelings, do not feel confident in letting your partner know what you are thinking. So that can cause a communication breakdown. So you always want to make sure that you don't fear an imagined outcome. So never lead with fear. Do not fear conflict. Do not fear rejection. You always want to take it head on. If it does come, then better, because now you are prepared. Another cause of communication breakdown is inconsistent communication styles. Now, depending on how long you've been with your partner, you and your partner should by now know each other, know how to communicate best with the other person. So stick to what has always been working. Avoid trying and dabbling new things if you know what has been working for you in the past. Unless in the past you've been struggling, then by all means try new communication styles. But if there is a style of communication that is working, stick to it. Number 8, technology and distractions can very well cause communication breakdowns. What do we mean by technology and distractions? This could be a phone. Your partner wants to have a communication, you are busy on your phone. They end up not being able to communicate their feelings and their thoughts. So when you are in the room with your partner, be present, be in the room. TV. When you are having serious conversations, switch off the TV. Be there, be attentive, listen to what your partner's trying to communicate. And vice versa, your partner should do the same for you. Emotional baggage can also cause communication breakdown. Now, these are past traumas, these are unresolved conflicts from the past. So anything that you have not dealt with emotionally can come and cause communication breakdown, even in a new relationship that you are planning to get into. So you always want to be mindful of why and how your previous relationships ended, because that might actually be the test for you, and you'll come to have to face that test even in a new relationship until you understand and know how to deal with it effectively. And last but not least, unclear expectations can cause communication breakdown. Now, I personally have been a victim of this. You need to be mindful of this. Never expect your partner to do things you have not communicated with them. You are setting yourself up for disappointment and pain. Never expect someone unless you have communicated with them what it is that you expect. Even if it's about giving you grocery money, even if it's about cooking, even if it's about cleaning the house, don't expect that your partner will do it unless you have communicated your expectation clearly to them. So if they then choose not to, then you understand that it was a choice not to. So now let's look at the 10 signs of communication breakdown. First one being frequent misunderstandings, where everything just spirals out of control. You plan to have an honest and fruitful conversation, but it always turns into a misunderstanding. This could be a sign that your communication is breaking down. Number 2, avoidance of difficult topics. If you are in a relationship with someone who avoids difficult topics, then I promise you there's just no way that relationship can work, because life will consistently throw you difficult situations which you will have to face and deal with your partner, because the Bible says you are no longer two but one. So you can't avoid difficult topics. So if your partner or yourself avoid difficult topics, discussing difficult topics, it could be finances, it could be love language, it could be sexual preferences. If you avoid these topics, they will eventually cause a communication breakdown in your relationship. Something as simple as two people who got married with children that are not of each other. You need to discuss how you are going to handle this, the parenting styles, and all of these things. You avoid them, they will cause a communication breakdown. Number 3, constant interruptions are also 10 signs of communication breakdown. When one of you tries to put out a matter to be discussed, or when one of you tries to share their feelings, the other one is always interrupting. That is a clear sign of communication breakdown. It needs to be dealt with. We need to allow our partners an opportunity to express themselves, and they in turn need to allow us opportunity to express ourselves. Number 4, increased silence or withdrawal is another sign of communication breakdown. Now, we get used to such in relationships. I don't know where we learn this. I don't know how it comes to be. But a lot of us have gotten used to just being silent. Your partner has to be your best friend. Your partner needs to be your best friend. So if you are now at a point where you are okay with not just sitting and saying nothing all day, then this is a clear sign that there's a communication breakdown, which might lead to imminent separation. Number 5, passive aggressive behavior. I mean, what more can I say about this? It's a clear sign that your communication is breaking down. You always blow things out of proportion and you get aggressive with each other. Whether it will be the one partner or the other, it really doesn't matter. But it's a clear sign because the other partner might get to a point where they can't take it anymore. Number 6, frequent arguments without resolution is also another sign of communication breakdown, where you argue all the time, but you never come to a resolution. Some of us have experienced this in our past relationships. And that's why today you are here. Your relationship has fallen flat. Your relationship has died simply because of what? These small, frequent arguments that are never resolved. Number 7, feeling unheard or invalidated is a clear sign of communication breakdown. Now, in a relationship, you always want to be heard and you want to know that you are heard. Your partner needs to know that they are heard. It is important to be validated because remember, these are two people trying to build one thing. And you want to make sure that the other party is also pulling their weight. But because we are two working together to build one thing, I want to make sure, you always want to make sure that your partner is validated, that your partner feels that they are heard. Also, the use of blame and criticism is a clear sign of communication breakdown, where the one partner just never takes responsibility. They always shift the blame to the other partner, where the other partner's actions are always criticized. Now, obviously, this will lead to an imminent separation. No one wants to feel like they are always wrong, like they are always to blame for everything. The reality is no one is perfect. Even in a relationship where the one partner cheats on the other partner, it's never just the fault of the one partner. Both are involved. Body language contradicts words. This is another clear sign of communication breakdown, where you can clearly see that the person does not agree with what is being said, but their mouth says they do agree. Where you can clearly see that the body language says, I don't want to be here, I don't want to talk about this, but they are there listening. This is a clear sign of communication breakdown, and it can lead to an imminent separation. And last but not least, decreased intimacy. Now, obviously, if there's no longer intimacy in the bedroom, then this is a clear sign that your relationship is headed for an imminent separation. Because, like it or not, intimacy is the glue to any relationship. Even in the Bible, Paul does say, never deny yourselves to one another. And always remember that as a woman, your body does not belong to you, but it belongs to your husband. And as a husband, remember that your body does not belong to you, but belongs to your wife. So if there is decreased intimacy, start worrying. Remember that these are early signs. So signs simply mean that something can still be done to rectify the situation. So those are the 10 causes and the 10 signs of communication breakdown. Number 2, we will look at loss of intimacy. We have 5 causes to outline today, and we have 5 signs of loss of intimacy. Remember, we just said that loss of intimacy can actually lead to an imminent separation because intimacy is the glue that binds two people together. A marriage cannot be consummated without sexual intercourse. So if there isn't sexual intercourse anymore, then that means that that glue is outdated and will be replaced either with a new partner or one will pull away from the relationship altogether. So the first cause of loss of intimacy could be health issues or physical challenges. Now, these can be understood, and I hope that your partner is able to bear with you. Because if anyone forces intimacy with a partner that's not well physically, that's not well emotionally, then I don't think that's a healthy relationship. But that does not excuse it from being a cause of loss of intimacy, which can ultimately lead to an imminent divorce. If you have a partner that's not understanding of this, obviously, this can lead to an imminent divorce. Because if one partner is not well and the other is 100% well, they still expect things to be as they were. It's not that they are right or they are even wrong. But the reality is, remember, we are physical beings with physical needs. So just because there are health issues, it does not necessarily mean that the other partner should deny the other intimacy. Why? Because we are physical beings at the end of the day. But I do hope that the partner who is well will be able to support the partner who's not well throughout whatever they are going through. Number 2, emotional burnout can cause loss of intimacy. This could be caused by work. This could be caused by neglect in the relationship. This could be caused by even children. So whatever the cause, all we are saying is that emotional burnout can ultimately lead to the loss of intimacy, which then leads to an imminent divorce or separation. So be mindful of it. Number 3, unaddressed cultural or lifestyle differences can lead to loss of intimacy. I myself have been a victim of this. For those of you who are unaware, I've got a published book right behind me, 35 and Married 15 Times, the biblical truth about marriage and sexual intercourse. And in that book, I detail how I, as a non-drinker, was married to the love of my life who used to drink. But at some point, I thought I'd be okay with that. But at some point, I couldn't handle it. Because seeing her drinking did something in me that caused me to desire her less, even though I loved intimacy so much with her. So unaddressed lifestyles or cultural differences can lead to loss of intimacy. This one I know from personal experience. The fourth thing that can also lead to the loss of intimacy is over-dependence on technology. Now, this could be your phone, this could be your TV. When you get home, you are on your phone. You neglect the time spent with your partner. It can obviously lead to an imminent separation. Or the fact that you love TV so much. When you are home, all you want to do is just watch TV. You want to watch movies and neglect the person next to you. But we need to remember that we have our phones all day, every day at work. So when you are home, be present. Phones have broken up a lot of homes. So be mindful of this. Last but not least, unrealistic media influences that portray love or intimacy in an unrealistic way. Keeping up with the Joneses. This is you trying to keep up with the trends on social media where you see a couple that's consistently out. Every day they are on dates. And you start comparing yourself or your relationship with that relationship. That can lead to you not desiring your partner. Why? Because you believe that they are not doing enough. You start blaming them for not living the type of life that others are living. So unrealistic media influences can lead to loss of intimacy. Now let's look at the 5 signs of loss of intimacy. The lack of desire for shared activities. This is when you both have your own hobbies and you never include each other in your hobbies. Maybe you have friends that you share your hobbies with and not your partner. It can eventually lead to a loss of intimacy. It's better that you share most hobbies together or share activities together. In fact, more than you share it with your friends or with other people. Another sign of loss of intimacy is living like roommates. There are so many people who are right now in relationships that feel like friendships or they live like roommates to a point where there's no longer intimacy, there's no longer sex in the marriage, in the relationship. Remember that this is not your roommate. This is your partner, the person you married, the person you chose, the person you are supposed to exclusively give yourself to. So when you are at a point where you guys just live like roommates, one handles the cooking, the other one handles the laundry, one handles the bills, one handles that, and there's no more sign of being in a marriage, it's a clear sign. Another sign of loss of intimacy is avoidance of physical contact. Remember that intimacy does not necessarily relate or equate sex, but intimacy is being able to share yourself with your partner fully, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and otherwise. But the avoidance of physical contact could be a clear sign where you are no longer comfortable touching hands or holding hands. You are no longer comfortable sitting together. Now, when you have been in a relationship for a long time, you end up developing this routine and this where one partner has their own couch, the other partner has their own couch. Remember, you are not roommates, you are not friends. You are partners. So the avoidance of physical contact, or it starts feeling strange or weird to just touch your partner, it's a sign that can eventually lead to an imminent separation. Number 4, emotional vulnerability decreases. This is a clear sign that intimacy, where your partner no longer shares or you no longer feel comfortable sharing with your partner your vulnerability. Now, if you need your partner to support you, your partner needs to know everything about you. I'm not saying that as a man, run to your woman and cry about any and everything, because the reality is at some point it does affect her. But be emotionally vulnerable with your partner. Tell them what you are feeling. Tell them what you are thinking. Tell them what you are planning. Tell them your fears. Tell them your dreams. Last but not least, increased focus on external validation is a clear sign of loss of intimacy. Now, this is where you see people sharing half-naked photos on social media to get attention from external people, to validate them. I've got nothing against such photos or such things, but the fact that you are no longer sharing it with your partner, but sharing it with the whole world so that they can validate you. Because to be quite honest, most of us take pictures and we post them on social media so that other people can see them. We just need to feel appreciated. We need to feel recognized by others. It's a clear sign that intimacy within your relationship is slowly dying, which then might lead to imminent divorce. And thirdly, another early sign of an imminent divorce is persistent unresolved conflicts. So under persistent unresolved conflicts, we have 5 causes of persistent unresolved conflicts and 5 signs of persistent unresolved conflicts, but we'll start with the causes. So the first cause of persistent unresolved conflicts could be different conflict resolution styles. It's not a problem that you have different conflict resolution styles, but it's important that your partner understands how you resolve conflict and that you understand how they prefer to resolve conflict. For some partners, saying sorry once and moving away is okay. It's normal to them and they prefer that. But for some other people, you need to say sorry and then show with actions over time. So it's important that you understand how your partner prefers to resolve conflict so that you can then be able to adapt, so that you can then be able to also validate their needs and let them know that I understand that it might take time for you to be okay because that's just how you are. So I will put in the effort. The second cause of persistent unresolved conflicts could be unmet emotional needs. Now, they are unmet because they have been communicated, I would hope. So if you've communicated your emotional needs to your partner, but they don't meet them or they don't make an attempt to meet them, it can lead to persistent unresolved conflicts. Why? Because you'll always be fighting about the fact that, but you know, I communicated this with you. So unmet emotional needs can lead to persistent unresolved conflicts, which can spiral down to a separation or a divorce. The third cause of persistent unresolved conflicts could be past trauma or pain. If this pain or this trauma has not been addressed, it can then cause persistent unresolved conflicts. Because some people fail to understand that no two people are alike. Just because your ex treated you this way, just because your ex caused you this pain, doesn't necessarily mean that this other person will cause you the same pain. But because you have not dealt with your trauma or your pain in the past, it will lead you to persistent unresolved conflicts with your current partner, which then leads to an imminent separation or divorce. The fourth cause of persistent unresolved conflict could be inability to agree on important matters. Now, I'm sure we all can agree that unless we get to a point where we can agree on important matters, we will always fight. And we can't afford to leave important matters unresolved. They have to be resolved. So the inability to agree on important matters can lead to persistent unresolved conflicts. Also, cultural or religious differences can cause persistent unresolved conflicts. Now, it's not a problem that there are cultural or religious differences. If you both have communicated this and are okay with this, then that's all good and well. That is absolutely fine. Now, let's look at the signs of persistent unresolved conflict. Constant power struggles, where one or both partners constantly feel like they need to assert their dominance, whether in the bedroom, whether in the kitchen, whether in the whole relationship or marriage. It's a clear sign that this is an unresolved conflict and can lead to an imminent divorce or separation. Another sign of a persistent unresolved conflict is recurring arguments about the same issues. Now, arguments are normal. You will always argue with your partner. But when you start arguing about the same thing over and over again, then you realize that this is a sign. And I love the fact that signs, they show themselves so that we can decide what to do with them or ignore them if you want to. Erosion of trust triggered by past actions is also another sign of persistent unresolved conflict. Now, obviously, it's not easy to heal from some past actions like being unfaithful to your partner. They will constantly have to deal with this. They will constantly have to try and keep their emotions in check all the time. But whenever trust has been challenged, you will have to tread carefully. So we need to avoid getting to a point where our trust is challenged, because there will always be triggers. It's not easy to emotionally detach yourself from such. Even though you want to, you hope to, but it's not that easy. Emotional instability is also a sign of persistent unresolved conflicts. Now, no one person can have all their emotions in check all the time. We try and learn. The most important thing is just to be emotionally aware. That's the best you can do. Just be aware of how your emotions come and go and how they affect the other person. But there's nothing you can actually do to make sure that your emotions are always 100% stable. You will always go through ups and downs with emotions. Today, you might wake up feeling good. Tomorrow, wake up feeling like the whole world is against you, like you're carrying the weight of the whole world on your shoulders. This is normal. Number 5, last but not least, another sign of persistent unresolved conflict could be passive detachment. There are a lot of people who have detached from their relationships. You can just tell. So passive detachment is a sign that your relationship is heading down the wrong route. Like I said, signs give us a time to reflect and choose how to remedy the situation moving forward.